FSU fans on social media and message boards got pretty upset when they thought that they might lose out on transfer Casey Roddick. But if they'd only been patient, they'd have realized how big of a role he'll eventually play for FSU, and that Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins were right once again. Roddick committed to the Seminoles on the 18th of December. Florida State landed 3 transfers on the offensive line in 3 days, and Alex Atkins had once again solidified the depth and bolstered that offensive line room in Tallahassee. FSU announced the Roddick signing a few days later on signing day, but then on December 29th, folks noticed that he had wiped FSU-related content out of his bio on social media and off of his pages. There was a serious question on whether or not he would end up at FSU. Social media and the message boards that followed were exactly what you'd expect. Move on from this guy. We don't need him. He's just wasting our time. He's not that good anyway. We've got the other linemen. Just get on with it. Of course, fans are going to be fanatical, and they're going to react this way when they feel like somebody is maybe going back on what they said, especially when it comes to their favorite team. But people were upset that he'd have a second thought. Rumors swirled that maybe Oklahoma or USC had gotten in the mix and maybe were reaching out and offering a pretty big NIL bag. On January 2nd, just a couple of days later, he was back in Tallahassee and all worries were quenched. People got upset about a 2 to 3 day question mark of whether or not he would end up in Tallahassee, and they absolutely showed their tails on social media, on message boards, and I'm sure in their group chats and friend discussions as well. Of course, patience isn't something that FSU fans or really any college football fans have, and they had very little patience with this. Message boards on at least 2 different websites that I went on had 10 plus pages of people complaining about Casey Roddick literally just taking down some FSU content, having a second thought, making sure that the school that he picked, FSU, was the right one for him. During his introductory interview, he didn't directly address this. There were no questions about, hey, why'd you take that stuff down early in the year? Why'd you end up maybe picking FSU and giving it a second thought? Nobody asked that. But I do think that some of his answers provided and showed some maturity and also maybe showed an answer as to why he possibly had some second thoughts. He repeatedly said over and over and over again in that introductory press conference that this was not a 1-year decision, that this was a 40-year decision for him, and that it was so much more important than the 3 to 4 year decision he had already made, how this 1 year would impact the next 40 years of his life. And when you put that into perspective and you think about it from that angle, was he not right to maybe take a couple more days and make sure that he was going to the right place? The transfer portal opened on December 5th, and he committed to the Noles just less than 3 weeks later. Did he maybe feel a little bit rushed? Did he maybe feel like that all happened pretty quickly? I don't know. It's possible. Again, he didn't address this specifically, making some inferences from what he said in his press conference. But for FSU fans to just go berserk on this kid when he was just trying to make sure that he was making the right decision for himself, and he showed the maturity of talking about how important this decision to come to Florida State was and how he sees it impacting his long-term future, shows a ton of maturity, and it really shows why Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins went after the kid. I don't have a problem with the kid making a little more time or taking a little more time to make the right decision. His interview was phenomenal. You guys really need to go check it out. We'll link it in the description, but I certainly think you guys need to go look at it, go give it a watch, because it was great. When he was asked about how it felt to go from a school that didn't have very high expectations last year, he's coming to a school with really high expectations now, he answered and basically just said, hey, it's all about work. It's all about getting to work and putting the work in to come where the expectations is high. The work has to be just as high to match that. And I thought that was a testament to a very Mike Norvell type quality, a very Mike Norvell type characteristic or trait. I want to talk to you guys really quick as we continue on about our friends over at the Sheepdog Corporation. Told you about them a few videos ago, but they are a new partner of ours, and I love that their message and what they do is so important. They work with military, active vets, former military as well, and first responders to provide PTSD treatment and mental health counseling. They seek to eliminate the barriers and stigmas associated within these communities that surround mental health by offering a unique and unparalleled experience. We're going to continue to talk about them, but you can actually contribute at the link above, and I'll link it down in the description if you'd like to give back and you'd like to help out in some of these communities. They provide these resources at a very discounted rate. They're able to even pay for some of the services for some of these active military vets and first responders who just don't have the resources or just don't have the ability to take care of it on their own. They're a great corporation that I'm proud to partner with. And if you'd like more information, again, their info will be down in the description. You can always message me as well, and I'm happy to chat about it. Appreciate the Sheepdog Corporation for their support, and I love working with them and hoping to give back for what they're doing. He talked a lot about his future, and he was asked what he saw himself doing post-football. He was the kind of kid that said he wanted to be a GM one day or maybe lead an organization. Leadership was a big focus of not only what he said the opportunity to come to FSU provided, but also what he talked about in his press conference and what he talked about wanting to do. We talked about the fact that he wanted to leave the room better than when he got here. That is straight out of the Mike Norvell playbook. That is straight out of the Dillan Gibbons playbook, who we'll talk about in just a second. Again, he reiterated the fact that this wasn't a one-year decision. This was a decades-long decision, and said that one day he wanted to be running an organization and leading folks. That's where he saw himself. Casey Roddick is likely going to come in and fill the spot that Dillan Gibbons occupied at left guard for the last 2 years. In fact, he mentioned that Mike Norvell was the first to reach out to him when he entered the transfer portal. We've talked about how quickly Norvell and Atkins and this staff get on people when they're in that portal, and I do think that makes a big difference at times, but it shows how much Norvell and Atkins wanted him to be that anchor, to be that rock of that offensive line, not only from a leadership perspective, but also on the field. More importantly than the role that Roddick very well may fill of Gibbons at left guard, he may fill that leadership role, and he may be the anchor for that Seminoles offensive line room for a very, very special 2023 run. Norvell knew what he wanted in Roddick, and Florida State fans maybe can take a lesson to just chill out a little bit and let a kid make a massive decision. When he was recruited out of high school, he didn't have the options that he had now. And so getting swept up in the whirlwind, maybe having people reach out, talking big money, talking big opportunity. USC, Oklahoma, those are good programs, good opportunities as well. I think he ultimately made the right decision, but it's a lesson for FSU fans to maybe back off the fanaticism just a little bit as these kids make their decisions. Ultimately, I think he ended up in the right place. Time will tell there, but I do think that he could be the guy for Florida State to lead that O-line room, and I think the Noles are really, really excited to have him. If you want some insight on how Mike Norvell turned this thing around and how we're in this situation right now, why Coach Bowden would be pretty proud of it, click the link next to me right now. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any content. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Go Noles.